because you're innocent, but not ignorant. That yourself, like in that crisis, well, suddenly, you know, when people do in the middle of a crisis, they suddenly act in a way which is like, wow, benevolent, you didn't even know that that was in you, or whatever, like that. You can behave in that way, absolutely, whatever that word is, that means that you're not concerned with self. That level of beingness is innate to what we are. So this is what I'm talking about, innate intelligence. To have, I mean, you can say to have faith in it implies an idea, right? It implies two things. Huh? But if we are who we are, rather than trying to be who we think we should be and all that, if we really are what we are, then something different happens. And this is where, this is really this is crunch point. This is something for me, this is crunch point. I have been led to believe through this idea that in order to be who I am, it was like as if I gathered something in, I accumulated something. It's almost like I was a noun, and there was some adjective that would actually, I would become benevolent, I would become enlightened or something like that. I discovered that that's not true at all. What actually is the exact opposite. What happens is that when you take a certain step out of being an agent for an idea, it's like you become hoovered out. It's the stuff that you got in you that you're holding on to, that you have to let go of. You know, people talk a lot about letting go, and people don't know what they mean. Let go, I want to let go. I was in love with Mary, now she's gone, I've got to let go. You know, what do I do? How do I let go? And this is like totally caught by this idea of letting go. Yeah? And you see people get really worked up about this. You know, they put themselves down because their friend Hazel can let go, but you know, I can't. And what is it about me that doesn't have to let go? You know, and people say, well, you invested too much and like that and all that stuff. Actually, what it is that this is a concomitant, a consequence of the whole history of ideas and the idea that I need ideas, as it were, to be dealt into the game. Any idea, basically, because if I get an idea, I can actually improve it, etc. The consequence of that is I'm holding, and that's what's very important, I'm holding. Whatever idea is, I'm holding, so like psychologically, as it were, I'm like that, I'm holding on. And of course, a wise person could see that if you actually open it out, there's nothing there. But what you're attached to is, it's so hard to communicate that. What you're attached to is the condition, that condition of holding. Yeah? That's what, it becomes like a type of skeletal armature. That would be right, yeah? It's like we're in this psychological condition of holding, right? We don't even know what we're holding on to. And you know, people do therapy, etc., etc. And I'm holding on to the idea that one day my mother will love me. That's what I'm holding on to. No, somebody else said, no, what you're holding on to the idea is that, right? But no one's concentrating on the holding. It's taken for granted that if something was really good at some point or something like that, or maybe it wasn't good, you're going to hold. Who says that? Why? Why should that be so, right? If you're living in a world of abundance, you don't have to hold on, right? You know, you eat the meals that you washed up, etc. And you go and do the gardening, there's more to come, etc. There is an abundance. It comes from that idea of scarcity. Scarcity. People living in the idea of scarcity, but of course you're going to hold on, right? Because there's scarcity. You know? Well, scarcity of what? Scarcity of affection, scarcity of friendship, scarcity of sincerity, scarcity of integrity. Yeah, you name it. We're living in that scarcity. This is exactly how the control mechanism is working. How do you get hold of it? Get hold of it by believing that God is love, or that, you know, redemption, or something like that. This idea, that doesn't get you out of it at all. That just narrows you down more and more, so you don't feel the manipulation of this idea of scarcity. The idea of scarcity is the most pernicious, destructive, psychological, corrosive that we have, right? Because without scarcity you wouldn't have resentment. And resentment is like soul poison. Why are you resentful? Because something's been taken away from you that you thought was so valuable, there's not going to be another chance, that's it, right? And now you've got to go through life being really, having been resentful, and then justifying it, right? And then you're going to join some group that are all resentful, like that, so you don't even notice it anymore. Right? So, which way we go? So the thing I was talking about was hoovering, to see that I'm hanging on because I've got this idea that's been subliminally, perhaps, entered into my subconscious. Because of other people's behaviour, because my mum's behaviour, my dad's behaviour, whatever it might be, and people something like that, that they're behaving in this way, you know, like everything is so scarce, like that. So they created this whole thing going on. And anybody who doesn't behave in that way is considered to be irresponsible, right? Cavalier, like this, you see? Because you're not operating in scarcity. Now, what we need is abundance, right? Yeah? You need abundance, you see? So we get out of scarcity by getting into the abundance. Right?
How do you do abundance?
How do you do abundance? By absolutely stepping out of the idea of scarcity, which means stepping out of the anticipation of punishment. As if you really spend your life, you really give everything you've got to this, to that person now, this moment like that, you're going to get sort of comeuppance, right? Such and such a to not actually buy into that, because that's exactly scarcity. That's exactly what it is, right? You know, like people talk, you have to be prepared for your, you know, getting older and all that sort of stuff. It's all rubbish. It's total rubbish, absolute rubbish. But you can only know it's rubbish by stepping out of it. You can't know it's rubbish by being in it, because that's hypocrisy. Because it's like I'm still in scarcity, and I'm talking about being free. See, and that's the type of trip that goes about. That's what I'm talking about when you're walking along in this way. So you're still in scarcity. You're still like that. Like, how long is it before I die? You know, my God, did I take too much acid? Oh no, what was it? What's happening? Oh God, I got arthritis. No, what was it? Like this. But you're looking this way to health. You know, like this sort of thing, and you're taking your, you know, all your minerals and stuff like that. But you're still in this way like this. You see. That is what is necessary. Then you get spherical awareness. When you have spherical awareness, you know, I started eating grass about 2 years ago because of that. And I started, you know, and I've noticed that if you chew grass, it's an extraordinary thing it goes. First, after like 2 or 3 minutes, the taste goes from it. It's pretty like a bit like an old sort of string. But you carry on chewing it, and after another 3 or 4 minutes, it starts getting juicy again. It was extraordinary, an extraordinary thing. I started eating grass. Do you know what? You pull up, you know when you pull up one and it comes out of its socket, and it's like white and that, and it's really juicy. One piece like that. Oh, sorry, I forgot about that. That's what, how do they do it, these cows? You know, I mean, I know they've got 4 stomachs and everything, but and I thought, this is it, you know, eating grass. Like this. No, and then people say, no, that's not good, because they talk about this thing about the stomach. You don't have to swallow it, right? You keep chewing it, you get all the nourishment out of it, right? And when you finish it, you spit it out for compost, right? Because you got your nourishment. And I told this farmer this, he said, no. I said, why are your cows fat and such and such and such? What have they been eating? He said, grass. I said, well, exactly. I said, it's got all the nourishment in it, like this, right? People don't eat it because they got this idea, right? That's a bit weird, eating grass. I said, try it, you know. I mean, 6 or 7, one of those, like, long ones, like that. Kept it going, you know, it's really amazing. Well, there's so much of it, right? There's no danger about, you know, going, there's an abundance. There you are, about abundance. Grass for once. Purslane, you know what purslane is? Is it called purslane? Purslane? It's the ones with little pink flowers on. It grows all over the place. That's so incredibly beautiful. And to eat, you know, it's great. So, to really get out of this, obviously, what we have to do is to allow ourselves to be hoovered out, you know, to be actually, and that's what it is. It's not about accumulating, like more insights or whatever like that. It's to recognise, like you suddenly have a moment, you know, you've got to go to bed or whatever it is like that. You suddenly realise that you're an agent. You could be an agent for your own past. You could be an agent for an argument you had with your boyfriend, you know, 5 years ago, but you're still working on it. Like I'll show him, whatever I'll show her. You see, like this. You're an agent for this type of story. And to actually see that, yeah, and have the courage to not be an agent for it anymore. Now, you're still going to have the momentum to do it, yeah, because you've got a job or friends, whatever like that, who see you in that way, and they keep you in that way, yeah? Even if they protest that they don't want to keep you in that way, they do, because why? Because everyone's doing ring of rosies, you know, pocket full of posies, you know, posies are, that's the sign that you've got the scarlet fever, or, you know, the plague. A tissue, you have really got it. We all fall down, right? So it's a game about how we all have got the death thing, and it's only a question of time, like that. Now, so one of you, let's just say it's me for a thing, and I'm playing there, and I suddenly realise that this whole game, what we call life and everything, is an actual waiting to drop, dead. You know, the cells are going, when? I said, I don't know. I've tried my best. Maybe I won't wake up in the morning. What happens then? You know? So, right, God, so you realise you're carrying all this stuff, and you say, do I really need to carry this? Do I need it? Right? And you think you don't know how to not do it. Right? As if you're already too caught. You've been playing Lady Macbeth for so long, you can't possibly change to Ophelia. It's too late. So, but you can, right? You can actually drop it and not play any role at all. None at all, you see? Like that. And that is like, for most people that sounds like a fantasy. Right? But it's a fact. It can happen. And it happens in a given moment because you see that you actually realise that being an agent for an idea doesn't give you dignity. It actually makes you into a slave. And to really see that straight on, absolutely straight on. And not say just like, yeah, but I've got to get a living, haven't I? I mean, everyone's got to work, you know, what about if everybody did this? What would happen to the planet then? Well, it might improve, but we can't think that, can we? Right? So, to actually make that move comes in that moment of shock. I'm sure everybody's had these moments. I do. That they're the shock moments of exactly when Mama Eagle knocks baby Eaglet off the cliff and like that. And I think that what happens when they call it a nanny state, I think that the origins of this nanny state is a type of subconscious understanding that the crap that's put out that people are supposed to live by isn't going to work. And a point will come when they'll suddenly have that, like that, right? And everyone's conditioned to believe that in that moment, instead of they will fly, that they will crash, right? Like this. So this nanny state is built to protect us from shock. But it's precisely shock that has allowed, if we ever evolved at all, and any moments of actual evolving, and I would, in that sense evolve, I would say that the eaglet knocked off the cliff, because the eaglet doesn't just one day go, Mama, I'm going to fly now. No way at all. It's knocked off like that. And it didn't know it was going to fly. It had no idea it was going to fly. I mean, if you had one of these little things in an egg for a start, right? You come out of an egg, pick yourself out of an egg like that. Do you think that you had any imagination at all what it was like to come outside? No way at all. Absolutely no way. You know, there's this scraggy thing, you know, amongst a load of straw and shit and everything like that. You're there and then you have worms stuffed in your mouth and bits of mice and all that stuff like that. You know, you think that you were anticipating flying one day like Mama? No way. It doesn't enter into its head at all. It only flies that moment when it's boofed off. Then it flies like that. Now, if we actually, if we actually realise that that's the only way, this is what I'm getting at, the only way we are going to evolve as humanity is that we're like the eaglet. As humanity, we are like the eaglet. And there is something that's going to knock us off the cliff, right? But instead of trying to work out what it's going to be and what is it, like, and I'm going to be prepared for it, and I wish my wife would as well, because she's driving me mad. She's just behaving as if there's no crisis at all. And I know there's a crisis coming up, and I don't know what it is, and I read all the books, I look at the internet, etc. What is it? Is it peak oil? What is it? You know, there's an asteroid, isn't it? Someone's going to hit the planet. God knows, am I going to survive? All that. Forget all that. The fact is that we don't need to have any idea at all what the shock is going to be. We don't need that at all. On the contrary, we need to be relaxed, play in abundance, have abundance, get out of scarcity, like that. Be relaxed, trust that this life process that we do have an innate knowledge, innate intelligence. Knowledge is a sort of like difficult area. We do have innate intelligence, and that I see and experience that people have been trained to not trust their innate intelligence, that they're living in stage fright, in anticipation, apprehension. And because of that, the function of thinking doesn't occur to most people. Instead of thinking, they shuffle, like talks about it, like shuffling cards around like that, or you know, like tarot cards, shuffling around and looking at the picture and trying to guess what it means. Did you know the old English word for heart, you know, the language in the Middle Ages, was funk. Now, it's an interesting thing that if we suddenly have a time of crisis, like we read, hey, this is going to happen to me as well. Wow, I thought everybody else would drop dead, not me. Like, wow, I'm going to go through this process. Do I have to just, like, drop dead, like that, well, that's it, you know. Or is there a way of meeting this extraordinary potential event fully alive, you know, to actually make it your total commitment that I'm going to be totally alive at this moment when this thing changes, whatever it is like that. When I get knocked off the cliff, I want to be totally alive. I don't want to be in apprehension like, oh, no. Because that baby eaglet, for people who didn't already hear, I was indicating the difference between ideas which humanity seems obsessed by all through history and what innate intelligence is. And I was saying that one day when Mama Eagle starts pushing baby eaglet closer to the cliff, baby eaglet first of all thinks Mama's just been very passionate. You've never been so close before like that. But suddenly, so you feel this looks up, and suddenly this bee's eyes and this beak, and you think, recognise my mother's mad, what's she doing? And poof! And she's fine, right? No, the eaglet's fine. That is innate intelligence, right? That's innate intelligence. Not an intelligence what we talk about. What we generally talk about is viewing something and making evaluations of it and being able to transmit those evaluations in concept form, etc. As if that was intelligence. That's just hearsay, really, basically. Real intelligence is that eaglet's suddenly fine. That's intelligence, innate intelligence. Because we have been so hung up on ideas, every idea of ourselves, whatever, idea of God, idea of truth, idea of the future, idea of death, all of it, like that. The underlying idea, which has gone right to our subconscious, is that without ideas, we're like that, you know, worse than the baboons and like that. We're just like this. That idea. Now, the point is that people don't know that. You show me someone who's gone through the process of liberating themselves from being an agent for any idea, and they're a very rare person. Right? Most people haven't even considered it. Right? What most people are concerned with is which idea. You know, you represent this one, he represents that one, and they fight each other like this. Right? So this is what's going on. So to be liberated from it altogether, you can't know what that's like in front. That's what's important, because we are used to argument by which someone is proposing something which they say is better than what you're already doing, and so what we want to do is we want to have a type of like preview. I'm kind of like, right, so you say that grass is as good as lettuce. Okay, well, I'm trying to, I don't know. You haven't chewed it long enough yet. Come on. You only chewed it for half a second. To really find out what grass is like, you've got to chew it for 20, well, I'm not going to try 20 minutes like that. No way like that. So most people never actually really find out for themselves. So we as humanity, if we are that eaglet, and life is pushing us, all our protestations and trying to prepare for ourselves is making us weak. It's making us unable, and will make us unable to take this leap, whatever that leap is. This is what the most important thing for us to understand this, and anybody who's experienced stage fright, apprehension, and all the different consequences of that, you know, will know that all that did not help. Yeah? That at the moment when whatever that issue was, like giving birth, whatever, at that moment we all came from that same, through that same, you know, position. Well, that's what some of us desire. But that moment is going to happen for the whole of humanity. And whether it's happening singularly, each person like singularly or not, I don't know. I don't know. But I do know that there's this fear that's been put across as if this is going to help us and prepare us. It's like thinking Mama Eagle would be really much more kind if she said, look, a couple of days' time, I'm going to throw you off the cliff. I'm just going to give you, just to prepare you, like that. And then maybe 10 minutes before, say, it's coming up. In a minute, you're going to get it. And then it'll be okay, don't worry. Look, I do it, you see, it's simple like that, you see. But Mummy, you've got such big wings and all that. It's okay, darling, your wings will grow as well. I can't do it. Okay, it's okay. Yeah, that's insane, right? This poor little thing's going to die. And as soon as it's pushed off the cliff, it's going to go crash like that, because it's not going to be able to imagine flying, you see. And that's how most people are about death, and getting old and all that like that. They think they ought to have some type of, you know, say read a certain book on it, or philosophy or religion or like that. Somehow because they bought totally into the idea that they're not going to be able to cope. Right? They're not going to be able to cope unless they got information. Right? So we're living in this huge information age. Right? So people have all this sort of information, internet, whatever like that. But does it actually free them to think with their heart? That's why I was thinking about the word thunk, the heart. Because if you really go into the heart and you consider whatever the issue is, if it's a real issue, what do I really need to think about? What is humanity called upon to think about? If I go really into my heart, then thunk starts to think. And when you really think, you give thanks. And thanks is appreciating. And, you know, what do we really need to think about? What we need to think about is our selfishness. You know, I mean, we are unbelievably selfish beings who are all the time pretending we're not selfish, doing things to be noticed. You know, I did that kind of gesture over there. You know, politicians pick up babies, you know, as long as they're photographed doing it and all that stuff. Our selfishness is what led us into this whole situation on the planet. It's obvious. It's so simple as that. And babies are selfish. They're 100% selfish. But if we really develop and interact, by the time, you know, that you get to a certain age, maybe 21 or 2 or something like that, that selfishness should have actually gone through a transformation. Like the first 7 years of our life, we're dependent. Basically, I don't mean, it's not like on the dot, you know, now you're gone past, you're 7 in one day now you've got to stop all that. No, it's not exactly like that, but it's roughly about 7. You know, all of these come around to the same thing, is that conscience is the intelligence of the heart. That's what it is. It's the intelligence of the heart. And the heart is not a sentimental pumping organ. The heart is the core of our being. If our heart is not open, you have no access to your soul. You can believe in it or not believe in it. I mean, that's the whole point about it, because your soul is how you structure your spirit. You know, everyone is a spirit. And, you know, birds are spirits, humans are spirits, you know, hedgehogs are spirits. Everyone's a spirit, but not every spirit has a soul. However cruel you may think that is, because soul is how you structure your experience of your spirit. So you can think of spirit like an amoeba, the white stuff without the black spot. You can think of soul as the black spot, as it were, like if you could think of it as that's how that amoeba structured its experience, so that it can actually live from that, like this. So how we structure, well, because a lot of people don't structure their experience, they can't be bothered, whatever like that. They think it's, you know, it's a waste of time, whatever. Like that. So they're still spirits, but they don't have any depth. And this is what's important. Like that, you see all around you, you know, lots of energy and this and interaction, etc., etc. But depth is a totally different thing, you know. And what people hunger for is not multiplicity of relationships, although they may think it's that, or the ability to change easily and all that. What they really hunger for is meaningful relationship with earth, trees, birds, other humans, whatever. And that comes through depth. That's what it comes through. It comes through depth. And depth hurts. It really does. But there's nothing wrong with being hurt either. Because if you really allow yourself to be hurt, you can be healed. That's the point. So when we're talking about those type of attitudes, like in early adolescence, when you say, I don't care, you know, okay, so you don't like me, I don't care, I can... But that, you don't realise how that incarcerates you in a type of... Like you become like an armadillo. You can not care. So what? Care comes from comes from heart. I don't heart. When you say don't care, I don't heart. Yeah, well I know you don't heart. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to not heart. Like that. You know, to think it's cool to not feel is the most horrible vibe being put out on this planet. Right now. And there is the whole trip that goes out, you know, about not feeling, as if feeling people are somehow less intelligent. Something like, actually. You know, it's not like as if there is only feeling. Of course, there's mind as well, but they have to be linked in a real way, not in a theoretical way. And so, I don't think we're going to solve the crisis that's going on the planet on the outside. This is the thing. I get embarrassed by this because unless people realise that inner work has to be done, it's not going to work. It cannot possibly work until we really face that the outside is a reflection of the inside and the inside is a reflection of the outside, that this is a symbiotic process, absolutely. But one thing we can do, each one of us can do for sure, is that we can be honest, look to see if you really are thinking or not. And I mean by that is that each person needs to stand up, as it were, and say, yeah, I'm here, I'm responsible for the atmosphere of this planet. to actually understand that. Each one of us is actually contributing to the ambience, the atmosphere of this planet. Obvious, absolutely obvious. Right? And therefore, to think that you are in some way, you can get away with it, that you can transmit negative thoughts or whatever it is like that, and that's okay, it's not. It's not. We are all, this is what I'm talking about, the point when life is pushing you like that. What am I talking? I'm talking about when you really face in your own psyche that you have to be pure. I don't mean pure according to an idea. I don't mean that at all. I mean purely honest about what you really are in this moment, what you really are doing. What are you actually doing? Are you continuing a story about yourself, a grievance, a resentment? Are you really and truly allowing a non-violent, a non-competitive, I'd say rather non-violent, are you allowing a non-competitive energy to enter your being and live there? Because that's what love is. That's what love is. Love is a non-competitive energy that can enter your being when you say, take all this shit out of me, I don't care how you do it, I don't care where it's done, whatever, suck it out of me, hoover it out of me, I don't care how it's done like that. Okay. And if you allow that to happen, you really allow that to happen, a non-competitive energy can come into your being. And you can actually corrupt it right away too. It can be in there and you can corrupt it right away. That non-competitive energy, it's like the virgin birth. It's like the virgin child. You become the womb of that, like the stable. We can be that. And that virgin child is that non-competitive energy. But you have to nourish it like a mother. You have to nourish it like a mother and a father. You have to look after it. It doesn't need an outer expression. It doesn't need an outer image. It doesn't need to be purveyed. It's on the contrary. It has to be nourished and looked after. And if it is, and you allow that, it does the work on you. It's that energy that does the work on you. And it's non-competitive. So that's, if anybody, that's enough for what I've said, And it'd be nice if people could talk to each other and talk to me, so we could actually, if there's anything to say about anything.
What's the method of welcoming that energy? What's the method?
Well, first of all, by actually recognising that what is living in you is and doing enough thinking to see what the consequences of that would be if it went all the way along the line. Right? So what that is, and then looking to see what it's already been doing, like that. And then coming to realise that you are at that cross point, like that. You are that fulcrum point, and the possibility of, as it were, of a different energy coming in is that you have to allow the old to let it go. That's the whole thing. And that's the genius of it. Of each one of us has got an innate genius that when you really see it, like you've really got a shit, there's no doubt about it. I mean, even if it's going to be, Christ, maybe I won't even get to the loo. Okay, well, it's got to that point now. It's got to go like that. It's like suddenly you realise you can't go on with it. It's a crisis. It's a crisis. And we've been, as I'm saying, it's like they're trying to work out, it's like as if like eagles are trying to work out how not to push their eaglets off towards the flower. It's a bit rough, it's a bit rough. I mean, don't you think by now we could actually work out some other, couldn't we sort of like stick wings on them or something like that right from the start? Or, no, it's ridiculous, right? It works already. It's when you come to that crisis in yourself, it's like when you lose the sense of your name. Instead of you being that history, the name that your mum and dad gave you and everything else like that, you hit a point and you realise that you're just a carrier of prejudice. That's what's actually happening, like this. And all the prejudices in there almost telling you how cruel you would be if you became truly alive. Because one thing for sure that's banned on this planet is being totally alive. That's what's really and absolutely forbidden. You have to be a bit dead, to get on with people like that. Otherwise it embarrasses them too much. It's too much of a demand, to be alive like that. It's putting people in a difficult position, they've got a difficult grandmother and all the rest of it, So in order to be alive, you've got to forget all that. You've got to, and that they don't tell you this bit. They don't tell you that the first stage of being alive is letting go of the deadness. And I've seen so many people, heartbroken people, and people who've really tried, and they've spent time in monasteries and so on, and they're still as fucked up, right? Because they didn't understand that they had to get rid of their deadness, first of all, their crystallization, of their idea of themselves that their parents gave them, and all the rest of it. Right? So it's recognising that, and that's what nobody else can do that for you. Nobody else can do it for you. That state of where you suddenly notice something. You say, I just suddenly notice how mean I am. Right? I didn't think I was mean. I thought I was generous, and suddenly I realised I'm fucking mean in 1 second. And wow. And it's like, it hits you so totally, and you so absolutely, that the very next second you find yourself going over to help someone. Right? The generosity, the honesty of that perception of your meanness has created a gap for your innate generosity. You suddenly act like you didn't even know you would do that. You're running across the road now, helping someone across there. You never did that before. And it comes precisely 1 second after you realise how mean you are. Right? And you're not doing it to impress anyone at all. It's happened because a gap's been created. And so you could almost say that true spirituality is what happens in the gap. Right? But it has to be a real gap, not a theoretical. Yeah, I'm into the gap now, man. What are you into? I'm into gap. Yeah, my philosophy is gap philosophy. Like that. I purposely don't clean my teeth when I say I'm going to clean them. I leave a gap, and then I suddenly do it like that. Like this. No, it has to be an actual, real gap, in which you're falling, like that. And it's that actually happens, that frees us into allowing our innate intelligence to operate, our essence to operate.
Sounds a bit like a lightning strike.
Yeah. In fact, I read a book by someone who was struck by lightning. He was on the phone, and his friend said to him, he said, "What's it like where you are?" He said, "Yeah, it's a bit of a chaos." He said, "Christ, man," he said, "thunder and lightning where we are." He said, "It's not that bad." And it came down the telephone, right down again, it burnt, the studs in his boots burnt into the floorboards, essentially like that. And he was like, totally, all his clothes burnt off, etc. He had multiple, it was lucky he survived, it burned, etc. all over it. And he survived to write the book about hit by lightning, that's what it's called. Yeah, it's extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. It goes into another dimension, people... Because every time we find ourselves in a difficult situation, if we feel that life is pushing us off the cliff, maybe, we always sort of think it's to do with some failure on our own part, which is really egotism, on our own part to deal with some situation. And now I'm having a lot of grief from Mary or Jim or Bill or whatever it might be like that. And if I'd only done that, it wouldn't be happening. As if this is wrong. Right? And actually what's happening is you're being pushed into conscience. That's what's happening. Life pushes us into conscience. And we either then at that point recognise that's what's going on. It's an individual case of a wake-up call. How deeply connected are you to your whole being? How much are you actually lying to yourself? I mean, this is so important, this thing about lying to oneself, because when we're kids, pretending, you see, is the big kick. You see, when we're very, crawling, little babies, we assume that mum and dad knows everything we're doing. It's not even imagined it could be otherwise. But at some point, maybe, 18 months, 2, 3, you do something, maybe you kill a slug or something, and they don't know. What were you doing then? Nothing. No, they don't know. Wow. So I can now pretend. I now know how to pretend, you see. I can pretend to be not doing something I'm doing, or pretend I was doing something I wasn't doing, you see, like that. So this whole thing of pretending, we've made an art out of it, drama and all the rest of it, out of pretending. Right? And we always assume that when we do something, we can always not do it. That's wrong. That's totally and absolutely, it's a terrible mistake to make. I'll give you an instance of this. I went in this shop, this clothes shop, and there was this terrible, terrible muzak going on. It was horrendous. And I said to this guy, I said, "Do you choose this?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, who doesn't?" He said, "Oh, you have to ask the manageress." And I said, "You choose this?" He said, "Oh, no." I said, "Well, I don't choose the manageress." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, who's choosing this music?" I said, "Is it being pumped up?" He said, "Oh, it's sent up from London." This is in Inverness, incidentally. I said, "What do you mean it's sent up?" He said, "Oh, they send us tapes every week." I said, "Well, and you just put them on with your..." He said, "Oh, yeah, we've got to play what they send us." I said, wait a minute, I mean, that can't be true. I mean, what, you think they're going to check up what you're playing? They're sending it to you because they think you've got no imagination to put anything on at all. You wouldn't bother. I mean, why don't you play what you really like? You know what she said to me? She said, I don't listen to it. I just turned off. She said, like, oh, it doesn't bother me. I said, listen, let me tell you something about conditioning. That's precisely the conditioning. They've conditioned you to think it's cool to not actually respond. And you think when you go home, you're totally sensitive, etc., and you put on your stuff, and you're like a completely relaxed woman. I said, check it out. Check it out. I said, play what you really love in here. She said, well, I don't know if they would like that. I said, just do it. If they don't like it, change your job. Something. So that's the thing about conditioning. You see, is the condition. We tend to think the conditioning is like the thing, like the beer, right? Like that. It's not that. The conditioning is that we will resist it, and therefore, in that act of that, and then selection will occur. So we become, what's that word? Disconditioning to resisting. You see, to resist all the time like that, and that's what the conditioning is, that we resist. So then you find you're resisting what you shouldn't be resisting at all, someone's love for you, and you're resisting it, right? Exactly like that. You can't, on the one hand, learn that type of resistance and then decide. You can learn to do it, but you can't learn to undo it. You've got to not do it at all. That's the point. People say, well, you can't live like that. It's too vulnerable. But the people saying that aren't doing it. That's what they imagine. That's the idea they have, right? Anything else?
It's very difficult to move from the idea into reality.
It's very difficult to move from idea to reality. Okay, I'm not going to be. This is not me being tricky with you. When you say reality, you see that is itself an idea. Right? Okay. So to move from the idea of not living for an idea to an idea of reality, yeah, it's impossible. Actually, it's not difficult. It's impossible. So you don't need to try to do that. But moments occur to all of us in which suddenly you are without the idea of yourself. You are without the idea of your history. You are without the idea of your future. It's a moment. It's an absolute moment. And what I'm trying to say is that you have to treat that moment as the opportunity for a different orientation. So instead of me spending all my time reflecting on thought, as if thought was a basis for understanding reality. It's not at all. It's just a selected story. That's all it is. So basically what I'm doing, I'm lying to myself. I'm seeing how to continue the story in a way that I would like. I'm not seeing that I'm a slave of storytelling about myself and everything else like that. So when you say that, it's like what the truth is, it's very difficult to give up the compulsion to talk to yourself.